Oh, good day. Hi.
I see you're quite interested in forest and the lake and also the animals grazing there.
Yeah.
But did you know that there's a peatland quite nearby?
A peatland?
Yeah. What is that?
Well, actually, I'm a tour guide, and if you want to, I could give you a tour. We could explore it together.
Okay. Let's go.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Purvi var veidoties arī līdzenā vietā vai lēzenās ieplakās, ja augsne pastāvīgi ir piesūcināta ar ūdeni. Purvi ir ārkārtīgi daudzveidīgi. Zemie purvi, pārējies purvi, augstie purvi, purvainie meži un citi purvu veidi ir unikālas ekosistēmas. Tajos mīt ļoti specifiskas augu un dzīvnieku sugas. Tie veido skaistas mozaīkas un dinamiski mainās, gadu simtos un tūkstošos pārējot no viena veida citā.
What is a peatland?
Basically, peatlands are places where peat is formed.
And how it's formed?
For peatland to form, it usually takes place with shallow level of water that remains still and constant. These places are usually located near rivers or lakes. In time, these wet places, they become saturated with nutrients, and therefore the oxygen can no longer dissolve in water. Therefore, normal decomposing processes cannot occur anymore, and the dead plant mass just accumulates, forming layers upon layers.
So we are standing on dead plants here?
Yeah, this is called fen. This is the stage where plants still receive nutrients from groundwaters.
How many stages there is?
There are 3 stages in general. This is the first one, and the plants that are most usually common here are sedges, cotton grasses, and reeds.
Kaļķainos zāļu purvos gruntsūdeņi ir bagāti ar kalciju, tādēļ tajos aug dažādas prīmulu un orhideju sugas. Nākamais posms ir pārējas purvs, kas lielāko daļu mitruma saņem no lietusūdeņiem. Tajā aug dažādi grīšļi un sfagni. Augiem sadaloties sāk veidoties kūdras slānis. Kad kūdras slānis ir pilnībā piesūcies ar lietusūdeni, ir izveidojies 3. posms – augstais purvs. Tam raksturīga purva akaču mozaīka un sfagniem klāta virsma, kā arī kupola forma, jo augstā purva centrs parasti ir dažus metrus augstāks.
Is this still a peatland?
Yeah.
But it's dry.
Yeah, I know.
There's no water.
It may look dry on the surface, but actually it's quite wet, as you can see. There's still some moisture underneath, and you can even see the peat forming.
Can I?
Yeah.
That's peat.
That's peat, yeah. That's the same we saw earlier.
Yeah, we can feel it's wet.
Yeah, it stays like this more or less through whole season. Fens and other peatlands are amazing not just because of their species diversity, but also because they accumulate and store carbon.
And how does it work?
Through photosynthesis. Plants absorb carbon dioxide from air and store it in carbon compounds such as carbohydrates and starch.
What's so important? Who cares about?
Well, I cannot explain it to you as good as a good friend of mine. That's why I come here. I will show you a video of her. She will explain it to you.
Peatlands have a high water table and very specific conditions like acidic waters and peat. And in this kind of conditions, plants grow and photosynthesize and bind carbon, but this photosynthesizing biomass or those plant tissues, they don't decompose fully, but accumulate as peat. And so carbon is bound inside the peat from those plant tissues. And in these cases, this peat layer grows, and this carbon is kept inside this peatland as peat. But if there is some human disturbances, these peatlands can turn from carbon sinks to carbon sources.
So these natural peatlands absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis. They help to reduce the greenhouse effect. We rely on our natural carbon sinks like oceans, forests and peatlands to absorb our CO2 emissions.
Mm-hmm.
Kad zemais purvs vai augstais purvs ir mitrs, daudzi organismi savā dzīves ciklā rada metānu, kas izdalās no kūdras purva. Metāns ir vēl viena siltumnīca efekta gāze, tomēr metāns saglabājas atmosfērā vien aptuveni 10 gadus. Tādēļ, raugoties uz to ilgtermiņā, dabīgie kūdras purvi ir tikai oglekļa krātuves. Tie izdala nelielu daudzumu metāna un absorbē milzīgu daudzumu CO2. Bet kūdras purvi ir uzkrājuši un atbrīvojuši siltumnīca efekta gāzes jau gadu tūkstošiem kopš to veidošanās. Ņemot to vērā, CO2 uzkrājums ir ievērojami lielāks par metāna emisijām.
We have just arrived at the raised bog.
Yeah.
As you can see, it's quite diverse and actually old. In this case, this raised bog is 4,000 years old. There are some even more older in the Northern Europe, could be 9,000 or so.
Yeah.
And yes, these are in many cases formed on peatlands I mentioned before, like transitional mires or fence.
How thick is that? Can you tell us a little bit?
Ah, yes. You see, it's actually quite thick, as you can see. It goes all the way in.
Oh, wow. Okay, quite thick.
Yes, the layer has grown so thick actually that the upper plants, they no longer receive nutrients from groundwater. And this is the part where the new species, these sphagnum moss, comes in. It grows like on top of the old plants. It forms layer on layer, and yeah, this is how this bog grows. The central part of the bog, it usually grows quicker because there is much more water. And yeah, this way it forms the dome shape that is characteristic for many raised bogs. And yeah, in time this dome becomes so large that it forms cracks, and these cracks fill up with water, creating lakes and estuaries where watering birds use for resting.
Okay, but more peat also means more carbon stored.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it is.
Biezā kūdras slāņa dēļ augstie purvi uzkrāj un glabā īpaši daudz oglekļa.
The peatlands are the biggest carbon sinks globally in the world in comparison with forests and all other vegetation types combined. And peatlands store more carbon, twice as much as carbon as forests. So they're underestimated, but very important.
What use do peatlands have for us?
For example, they act as natural flood barriers.
Yeah?
Oh,
How?
Let me show an experiment. So, right here, you see this is sphagnum mosses that grow in bogs. You see, the thing is that they can absorb large amounts of water, and by doing so, they can absorb, for example, waters when it's excessively raining or when the snows are melting in spring. And they absorb this water and they hold it. Therefore, these high water level fluctuations are prevented. Basically, prevents floods.
And it can hold a lot of water? This?
Yeah. Let me show you. I suppose it will take some few seconds.
Oh.
See, it's actually like a sponge.
oh.
Yeah.
All that water goes back in.
Daudziem cilvēkiem, kuri dzīvo kūdras purvu tuvumā, ogu lasīšana kūdras purvos ir veids, kā sagādāt uzturu. Arī mūsdienās cilvēki pelna ievērojamas naudas summas, lasot ogas un pārdodot tās tirgū. Kūdras purvi piesaista reģionam arī turistus. Cilvēki pavada laiku dabīgajos kūdras purvos un to tuvumā, dodoties pārgājienos, vērojot putnus, izklaidējoties citos veidos. Tomēr rūpnieciska kūdras purva izmantošana rada ievērojamu negatīvu ietekmi.
Quite an area, this whole place.
Thomas, can you tell me, this ecosystem seems very useful and beautiful, how it is. Why and how did we start to dig them up?
Baltijas reģionā kūdras izmantošana aizsākās 17. gadsimtā, kad pieauga kūdras ieguve kurināšanai. Kūdras purvu izstrāde kļuva intensīvāka 19. gadsimta beigās un savu kulmināciju sasniedza 20. gadsimtā, kad kūdras ieguve kļuva patiešām industriāla, nodrošinot lielu peļņu.
Peat extraction is important for Baltic states. Extracted peat is mainly exported to foreign countries like Germany, Belgium, Netherlands and other countries. Peat substrates are used in growing media, in gardening, agriculture.
But how is the peat extracted? If it's so wet, doesn't the heavy machinery sink in it?
Well, that's why drainage was introduced. As you can see here, this is a drainage ditch. It was made to lower the water level and drain the peatland.
Oh, so they drain it.
Yeah, and it's actually the drainage and drainage ditches they have quite a great impact on the peatland, even if the peat is not extracted.
Izrokot grāvjus un nosusinot purvu, ūdens līmenis tajā ir zems gandrīz visu gadu, un skābeklis var iekļūt dziļākajos kūdras slāņos. Tad rodas kūdru oksidējošās baktērijas un sākas kūdras sadalīšanās. Iepriekš uzkrātais ogleklis pamazām pārvēršas oglekļa dioksīdā un izdalās no kūdras purva. Ar laiku kūdras purvs zaudē dabīgo augu un dzīvnieku daudzveidību un aizaug ar dažām krūmu un koku sugām.
So drained peatlands are very prone to fire because water level in such places is very low due to effect of drainage systems. And the upper layers are dry and they catch fire very fast. And when such places catch fire, so they burn for a very long time and the fire goes into deep layers. So peatlands may burn for months in dry weather. And during fire, huge amounts of carbon dioxide is emitted to the atmosphere.
Pamesti kūdras lauki, kas tiek atstāti pēc kūdras frēzēšanas, ir būtiska problēma. Kūdras frēzēšana kļuva populāra 20. gadsimtā, kad tā kļuva par galveno kūdras ieguves metodi. Lielas kūdras purva platības tiek nosusinātas un pēc tam frēzētas daudzus gadus. Tās kļūst par neauglīgu zemi. Ja nekas netiek darīts, tās paliek gandrīz bez dzīvības vēl ilgu laiku pēc kūdras ieguves beigām.
in all cases, the main techniques that are applied is blocking of ditches, which means that we can build peat dams, or sometimes these are dams of plastic piling or mineral ground or boards, or there are different approaches used in Europe and also in some other regions. The second thing is what we can do is filling the ditches, which means that there's no ditch anymore and no drainage anymore.
Pirms grāvju aizbēršanas nepieciešama daudzus mēnešus ilga sagatavošanās. Pirmkārt, nepieciešams veikt gruntsūdens līmeņa monitoringu dažādās kūdras purva vietās, lai noskaidrotu, cik augsts ir pašreizējais gruntsūdeņu līmenis dažādos gadalaikos. Tam seko rūpīga modelēšana, izvēloties labāko scenāriju, kur izvietot aizsprostus, kurus grāvjus aizbērt un kāda veida aizsprostus izmantot.
In many cases, we can restore the hydrology, but the species are not coming back. This problem is well pronounced in fragmented landscapes, especially in West Europe. But in cases when the mire vegetation, the peat-forming vegetation is not re-establishing or the process is too slow, the plants can be reintroduced by planting or by sowing seeds or by spreading sphagnum fragments, which are methods that are becoming increasingly popular.
In fact, some of agricultural lands are actually in places where there used to be peatlands before.
Now I understand. The peat that is here is also the same that we've seen in the bog, and it's also similar to what my granny was using in her flower bed.
Yes, it actually is.
Īpaši plaša purva pārveidošana lauksaimniecības vajadzībām notika Centrāla Eiropā, tādās valstīs kā Polija un Vācija. Šeit dominējošais purva veids bija zemie purvi, un daudzi no tiem ir pārvērsti intensīvas izmantošanas lauksaimniecības zemē.
If we look to the history, there was the foremost need in former times, like a century back, was to fight the hunger. So to make land use more efficient. And one of the ways to make land use more efficient was to drain actually peatlands, because in peatlands not only carbon is stored, but many nutrients are stored. So these areas, once drained, have been quite suitable for agricultural use. So our grandfathers did drain those peatlands, which we now try to become wet again. Now we are in the lucky situation that we are developed, that no one has to starve in Europe, and now we have to really do our job and restore the peatlands.
Tūkstošiem gadu purviem ir bijusi ārkārtīgi svarīga loma mūsu klimata regulēšanā, un tie ir nodrošinājuši daudzveidīgus ekosistēmas pakalpojumus. Mūsu šodienas uzdevums ir atjaunot pēc iespējas vairāk purvu, lai nākamās paaudzes varētu izbaudīt mūsu dabas mantojumu.